Julia, welcome to Open Source Friday. Thank you so much for being here today. And I appreciate your flexibility. I know we're not coming live, we're coming from the past, but the topic and what we're going to discuss is going to be just awesome and super relevant for all folks in the future. Welcome, Julia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea. I'm excited to be here and happy Friday.
So for those who've joined this transmission and have not really heard about What If Me does, would you mind giving us a little bit of background? Just where did this come from? In essence, what is your mission? And then I think you have an anniversary coming up, or maybe it's happening now, which is for a project, an open source project. It's a good big one. So if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about the project itself, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, totally. We're an open source, not for profit project. And we've been around for 10 years since 2014, which is wild to think about. But yeah, we do a handful of things. Primarily, we build a free and open source mental health communication web app. It's an app where you can journal. It's an app where you can connect with people in your life to share your mental health experiences. We also have a very popular resources page where we crowdsource mental health and disability resources across the internet in different communities and different languages. And then we also have a Medium blog where we publish original content from mental health activists, advocates, people dealing with mental illness, and other amazing grassroots organizations that are also doing really important work in the mental health and disability justice space.
That is awesome. So the web app itself, I think, because there were so many layers to the project, I didn't realize that there was so much more than just the web application. I thought it was just the web app. That is so cool. And that is a project that is hosted on GitHub, correct?
Yeah.
We've shared the link. So folks, please go by, take a look at the project, also start it. We are going to talk about how it's built a little bit, but I want to take a look at the actual site itself. I love that this is also a journaling tool. That I did not know. I thought it was just for you to share stories and it was be able to have a safe space to speak to, I don't know, the void of people, but then also if you could share it with others. That is super, super interesting. Like why that approach of having a space where you can share with your family and or friends or other people.
Yeah. Essentially, whoever your allies or trusted folks are. Yeah. If we in our web application specifically, the goal of it is not to be a social media site. We have tons of those. The goal is really to be able to get full control of who you want to share your content with. In this case, you're writing about your mental health experiences, you're journaling. So we have very fine-tuned features that allow you to share what you're writing, your post, what we call moments, with nobody. You can have it to yourself. Or it's a closed network. So you can only share it with people that are your allies. So allies is a term that we use to describe people that you essentially add as friends and you give each other permission and consent to view each other's content. That being said, we did introduce a feature a couple of years ago through our Rails Girl Summer of Code program called Private Share, which basically, essentially in order to see each other's moments and like self-care strategies and other content that you can post on the site, you need to have an account. But there's just so many things to sign up for at this day and age. So sometimes you just want to share what you've written without having to have the person you're sharing with sign up for something. So we do have a feature that allows you to generate a privately generated link. So anyone who can view the link can view the content and that link can expire. So the goal is that, we're not a social media site. It's not about posting into the void and getting random people engaging with what you've written. It's more like intentional. It's like being able to open up those conversations with whoever is your safe space, whoever is considered your loved one in your life, family, friends, maybe even your therapist or even coworkers. So we want to reclaim privacy and security in the sense that we really want to give users the ability to control things. And I also mentioned security. So that's another important aspect. There's no ads in the application. There's no data mining or anything. We're not collecting data and passing it into third-party tools for any type of analysis or customized content. It's all within the app. So yeah, we really want this to be a safe, controlled, private space to be able to share your most vulnerable thoughts and be able to trust that the platform you're using is storing it in a responsible way.
And from a technical point of view, when we talk about the site design, I do want to touch on that because if ever there was a space where privacy and having secure was more important, that I would think it would be here, right? Because you're sharing such vulnerable and personal things. So you definitely want to make sure, and by the looks of the web app, I signed up and yeah, it looks super intuitive and it makes it like very practical for you to get started. Have you seen adoption from people in the healthcare industry? I wonder if like therapists or folks are aware of this project because I can see a million applications like for even in my own personal life, like how I would like to sometimes share certain things with certain people, but then other people I wouldn't want them to see like my medical notes and things like that. So I don't know what's the adoption. What have you seen folks using it for?
Yeah, those are great questions. So I think the first thing I want to address is the clear boundaries that IFME occupies when it comes to being a journaling app, being mental health focused. So it isn't an app that's meant to be used by medical professionals in a formal sense. It's not a tool that a therapist would use in their sessions or write notes. I think in order to build a tool like that, you really have to consider regional, national regulations around like sensitive healthcare data. So in the US, there's HIPAA. In other countries, there's their own version of it. And that's a space that we deliberately do not want to be in. There's so many other amazing applications and existing tools that do that already. So this is more about, I guess, patients or just day-to-day people who need an outlet or an area to be able to store their thoughts, be able to categorize it, be able to think about the self-care strategies that they use. We also have a tool called Care Plan that we introduced in the last couple of years. And it's just a page that compiles different notes and different previous posts that you've written to help you come up with a care plan. If you're in a moment of crisis, you can go to this page and immediately see who you should reach out to. Maybe open up some affirmations that you've written in the past that are helpful. Maybe you already have a list of things that you know helps you in a time of crisis or difficulty. So in terms of who's actually using it, yeah, like over the years, we've definitely gotten a lot of mental health professionals reaching out to us. We've had people working in the industry as therapists or psychologists even who have contributed to the app or helped review it or help do some user testing. So we've gotten a lot of perspectives, I think, in terms of people that mainly use it. I guess this is the double-edged sword of us not collecting data on people when we use the app. We don't have specifics on where the people are coming from, what they're using. But we definitely know just through people contacting us and the mission and how our app is written and the design of it, that it is meant for day-to-day people. So people who may be mental health patients, people who may not be. Sometimes those folks are also therapists. They also happen to be working in the mental health industry. Therapists need therapists. Everyone needs mental health. It's been everybody, but because we're not tracking data or collecting that specific information on what people's occupations are, or even collecting location data is not necessary in our app. We don't know the exact breakdown. Yeah, it's part of the design because we really want it to be, private and secure. And even though we're not building a tool that is used in the mental health industry, and we don't necessarily have to comply to specific regulations like HIPAA or other sensitive health care information regulations, we still want to make sure that we're not collecting information that we don't actually use and that aren't sensitive. Like if, in the event that like something bad happens and information is leaked, like it's like insensitive information rather than sensitive information.
That makes perfect sense. So there will be no way to attribute like to a specific person. That makes complete sense.
Very different way of approaching software development and even product development now because everything collects data. Everything is aggregated.
Oh, yeah.
It's sending to something else. And yeah, we just don't do that.
I appreciate that. That's amazing. And it's such a refreshing thing to see in the open source space. So because even open source projects, there's a certain telemetry you want to know. For something like this that's so important, thank you for making sure that's top of mind and the way that the site is designed and everything. I've noticed on your GitHub where the org is and where the website, it's the code for the site there, that the README is in multiple languages. So even though I guess you can't really pinpoint like specific countries, I will think there is a ton of interest from those places, right? Because the volunteers have
Right.
come in and done the translations.
Yeah. I don't speak all those languages, so someone did it.
I love that. I love the fact that they're making it so much more accessible for other people to not only use it, but also to contribute to the project itself. That is absolutely fantastic. So it looks like there has been over 300 contributors throughout the lifetime of the application, right? Like 311, I think is what the contributor list is now. And then there is a path to contribution. Like your documentation is lovely. Like the way that the project is documented is great. Could you share a little bit about the actual specifics of how the website was built? I wonder if you showed, is it on Ruby because it was 2000 and what is it, 14? Like you said.
Totally. Yeah. So I guess a number of things to say there. Yeah, I feel so blessed, grateful, privileged, lucky to be able to be sustaining an open source project for 10 years. Yeah, it's like almost like raising a child a little bit. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's always been something I've done on the side, but also been very passionate about. Like I have a day job in the tech industry as a software engineer. So yeah, I think in a lot of ways, this project has been like a museum of changing technology paradigms in like web development, which is fun. And it's also been like an evolution of my own like growth and expertise as a software engineer. And yeah, everyone who's been a part of the journey throughout the 10 years. But yeah, in terms of the tech stack, we are a monolithic web application built on Ruby on Rails. And then our front end components and design system is built in React. We also use Storybook. And then in terms of like our Ruby on Rails setup, it's pretty standard of what in a lot of Ruby on Rails applications. We use Postgres. We leverage a multi-page app. The server side renders some things, but we're also moving more towards rendering some things through a single page app to leverage React like lifecycle and all of the hooks and state management that comes with that. In terms of why we did it in Ruby on Rails, 10 years ago, I was an undergrad student at the University of Waterloo studying computer science and doing their co-op program. I did a lot of internships while I was studying undergrad for computer science. I was doing an internship at the time at ThoughtWorks. ThoughtWorks is a big global consulting company. I worked out of their Toronto office as an intern. It was like a very like life-changing formative internship for me in the sense that I think around that time, everybody who studied computer science or wanted to become a software engineer wanted to work at like big tech companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially back then, like Google and Facebook, like their internships were like, I don't know, Tamagotchis or something. Like people just like really wanted them and things like that. And yeah, I think I had gone through a couple of internships at that point and realized that I wasn't interested in working in big tech or interested in working on some sort of social media platform. I was more interested in like more mission driven work, things that really impact people's lives. I know the word like social impact is a very popular word now that we use or mission driven, but I was really interested in those spaces. And when I interned at ThoughtWorks, I worked on like big client stuff. But on the side, I also worked on more social impact nonprofit work. And that really changed my mind about software development. I remember working on the iOS app for Democracy Now! We also partnered with a local First Nations health organization in Toronto to build out their health database and their website. And yeah, just through doing that work, I was like, oh, this is like what I'm interested in. And I come from a background as a community organizer. And for me, like mental health is something that is deeply a part of me and important for me. Like I have mental illness. I've been in therapy since I was a kid. I've navigated different mental health care systems and always have had to be an advocate for myself and like people around me. And I grew up with that as well, with my mom especially, and like growing up with a sibling with a disability. But anyways, yeah, I think like doing this internship, it was eye-opening for me. I was, oh my God, like I love being a software engineer. I love the craft. I love everything I'm learning in school and in the industry about it. But I want to build something that I actually care about, that I feel like is fulfilling for me. So doing that internship, it opened my mind to that. And then at the time, yeah, Ruby on Rails was like the hot shit back then. Yeah, on Ruby on Rails, it's the past 20 years or so. Yeah, I thought it was just really cool. Like I did a lot of like rapid prototyping on Ruby on Rails. I remember like most people that maybe learned that framework for the first time, it was like really the first MVC I had worked in, and I just could not understand it immediately. And I remember the day it clicked, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I can build any app. Wow, the world is my oyster. So yeah, I think around that time, I was like, I think in my second year of university, doing a lot of internships, feeling really burnt out. Like I went to a really competitive program. Everyone was like flexing to each other, like which cool internships they had and competing with each other. And yeah, it like affected my mental health. And as someone who grew up diagnosed with mental illness, it's something that I've always had to deal with. And I think when I got to university, I was a little naive. I thought, oh, if I move away from home, all my problems will go away. And obviously they didn't. So a lot of like my first year of university was, yeah, navigating the mental health care system on campus by myself, learning to advocate for myself, realizing that I did need to go to therapy. I need to see a psychiatrist. I needed to like look into medication. So around that time, I was also doing a lot of community work. I was like organizing on campus, having conversations with faculty, staff, especially in computer science, to be able to, yeah, provide more accommodations, inclusivity, and education around mental health, because there was a lot of gaps of awareness and knowledge at the time. So I was doing a lot of writing about it and publishing it online. And then around this, yeah, I was doing the internship around that time. And I don't know, a part of me just wanted to build a tool for myself so I could journal and be able to share things with people. Yeah, I was in my early 20s and was really starting to come to my own and be able to express vulnerability more and be able to open a bit up more about my struggles with mental illness. So yeah, ultimately, yeah, one day I just typed in like the Ruby on Rails scaffold generator, build app, and then I built IfMe. The name came from some Tumblr blog I had or something. Like it was like some
I was gonna ask. Yeah, I was gonna ask what is the name.
sounded cool, honestly. But yeah, it honestly just started out as, oh, I learned this new framework. This is cool. I'm really interested in mental health now. I want to build a tool for myself to be able to express things. I think back then it was a lot easier for me to write down how I was feeling and share it with people rather than maybe having a face-to-face conversation. And then, yeah, over time, just started like casually sharing with people. People thought it was a cool idea. I was writing for a really awesome independent publication at the time called Model View Culture. They publish from a lot of marginalized and underrepresented people in tech and their critiques and analysis of big tech, the tech industry, tech culture. So I was like writing a bunch for them, writing about sort of mental health culture and computer science programs and like inclusive DE&I issues that sort of come from that pipeline into the industry. So I remember writing a post about my struggles dealing with mental illness and mental health and finding accommodations on campus. And I remember the editor of that publication, she was like proofreading my work. And towards the end, she had asked, oh, I think at the end, it'd be good if you could like provide some resources or suggestions on how to like find community or tackle these issues.
Yeah.
Like listing some like community resources and stuff. And then at some point I was like, oh, I guess I'm like working on this app and I'm interested in making it open source. Like I'm not looking to become a startup and become an entrepreneur. I just really want to have this idea out here and have it be free and open. And yeah, she was like, you should totally mention it. So I think that was the first like PR of this project. And like that article was really successful. It was shared a lot on the internet beyond my campus, like in the industry. So that was like the first time that I got a lot of people reaching out being like, hey, I'm really interested in working on your project. So around that time, like I had like casually engaged with open source projects before in the past, but it was mainly I got a blocker when working on some framework and needed to reach out to a community to get help, or I found like a minor bug or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think back then, like open source was very not welcoming. It felt like a huge barrier to get into. It was like a bunch of dudes in an IRC chat. And even like figuring out how to set up IRC was like such a pain.
Yes, indeed.
So around this time that I started putting my project out there and getting interest, I started really thinking about, like, oh, I should make this an open source project. Like I have no desire in monetizing from this or making this a startup. I just want this to be a thing that exists and grows for what it is. So I had to figure out as I went how to make this an inclusive and welcoming project. And yeah, I'm really proud of the work that me and many others have done over the years, because I think back then there was no rule book or guide to like social impact open source projects and making them welcoming to new folks who are new to software engineering, who are new to in general. And we shaped a lot of that through our contributor community over Slack, through just like all the little things that we did to like onboard people and make them feel like they were a part of something. It's been amazing to be able to have, I wouldn't say like accidentally on that, but just really be able to figure that out incrementally over time and build something really organic and something that is still alive and working.
Yes, you paved the way. You're like the giants that we say we stand on the shoulders of giants. You are though. It's now all of these new projects that are coming out, like they don't have to pause and figure out all these governance and guys to contribute in. And even something as beautiful, I was mentioning before we started actually recording how I've not seen a open source project include their storybook on their README. And just things that like best practices for even lowering that barrier to contribution is awesome. We can look at you and your project as a place that set best practices for projects within the social impact space and outside, right? I feel like we should make it more welcoming and easier for anybody to contribute to any project. So that's pretty awesome.
And one more thing to add there is I feel like sometimes open source gets a bad rep, especially software projects that like, oh, they're cobbled together or not like the best maintained. They're not code that you would see in like a production code base at a large tech company. But I think with our project, especially because we're building a web application, like we needed to uphold those standards that you would see at any job at the product software company. And yeah, things like having a design system, things like being able to use project management tools and things like that. Yeah, those are like ideas that like we can incorporate in open source. They make our work easier. They make what we're building better. And it is also a universal language in a lot of ways. I think especially for contributors who are coming from a software background, whether they're a designer, a tester, a developer, everyone knows concepts of what agile are. People know what design systems are. People know the importance of being able to move a project from to do to like ready for review, ready for testing to done. So this is all like a shared language we have regardless of our differences in language or culture.
Yeah, I super appreciate that. So speaking of the maintainership of the project itself, do you have a core team right now? How are you handling that? I hope it's not just Julia and 300 friends.
It's like a bit of both. So I think one challenge that I've come to embrace and accept about open source is that people truly come and go. Unless you've started a project with someone who's like your ride or die in the project, you're on your own, or you find someone who's like just as passionate. So it's like we do have a core group of maintainers, but it changes over the years. It's not always static. So yeah, I am the core maintainer. I am the person probably reviewing your PRs if you like put any, or if you like reach out to the project through our email, you'll likely interact with me. And yeah, it's been ebbs and flows. I feel like our project was like super active, especially I think around like 2016 to before the pandemic. We were doing a lot of like cross collaboration with other social impact open source projects or like meetups or like collectives. And then we were also, very much active in Rails Girls Summer of Code. They were such an amazing program. We would get essentially interns every year and they were paid. They got some coaching, like corporate coaching and sponsorship. And like we had them for like basically 4 months. So I think during those times, we did need a consistent core team to help mentor and coach people and guide people. And I think right now we're in a phase where we're not doing active major development on the application. Like our redesign happened, I think, in 2018. So we're basically in an iterative mode. There hasn't been a need to be like have a core team. But that being said, we're always looking for people who are able to stay on for longer and continue to be a part of the project. And then just like within our project, like we've had contributors come and go. And there have been so many people who work on our project in bursts for maybe like a handful of months or even years, have to take a break from it because of life.
Yeah.
They have work, they got bills to pay, things to do. And then like on their free time, they always come back and be like, hey, what's up? I want to like work on this again. And then
I
that's
love that.
fun when people come back. It's, I don't know. Yeah. It's like almost having a little reunion. So I've had a bunch of people like that recently who have come back from maybe a couple of years of taking a break or doing their own thing.
I love that. So let's say magic one moment, if you could encourage a specific, I don't know if it's a specific profile or specific, like if there is something in the project that you would like to be a priority. I know you just went through a redesign a few years ago, but I don't know. Is there a specific, like if someone is listening, watching this right now and they're like, I can do that.
Yeah.
Like what would be a thing that you think maybe it'll be like super, super value add to the project now?
Yeah. I can think of a handful of things. I guess the first thing I can think of, I think the easiest thing really that has the biggest impact is translating our app. We've been really blessed and grateful to have had translated our app in over 14 languages. It's all been contributors. It's been amazing. And we also interview a lot of these people. And it's also been a cool process to learn about how mental health language works in different languages. It's very different. There's a lot of nuance and like specific experiences you'd only understand if you were that language speaker or if you're part of the culture. So yeah, translators would be fantastic. I think another thing that's important to our app is even though we're not going to go through like a huge overhaul or anything, I think we're pretty stable framework wise. We're constantly updating to the latest framework, refactoring code, making sure that we improve our test coverage or existing ones. I think there's also lots of opportunity to improve performance and architecture. So if folks are interested in that type of work, especially as a developer, there's lots of opportunities there. I think we have like over 90% test coverage, which is awesome and cool.
Wow.
Yeah, like,
That is very impressive.
sometimes, but like the ones that we do have, like they do serve an important function. And then I think from a usability standpoint, there are so many opportunities to the user experience of the app. We would love like more user testing. Anyone who's interested in UX research and being able to, concretely get information on data on how to improve engagement and usefulness of the application. And just in general, if you have any new ideas of features that you want to add, things that are useful, like our care plan feature is a more recent feature. And that came out of like a bunch of people expressing interest. And it would be cool if we had some more tools that would be helpful for someone during a crisis or during a low point in their life where they need to have some information to lean on for themselves. So like we're always open to those new ideas. And then I think overall, I think something else like that would be amazing to have is I think folks that can just help grow the contributor community. Like I had a lot of ebbs and flows and levels of engagement, levels of contribution. But I think we're always looking for folks who are interested in that community growth, who are interested in helping to strengthen our developer community, improve our docs. Like we do have a lot of extensive docs and things like that, but there's always room for iteration and improvement. And just making it easier and more exciting for the next person to be a part of the project.
I love that. Okay, that's amazing. So if you were listening, if you're watching and you're like, you know what, this is my jam. I've been thinking about digging into a project that's more US research focused. Go ahead and reach out, start contributing or start getting involved. Read the documentation, find out from there how you can best get involved with the project. But if I don't have right now the bandwidth to do that, but I do want to support the project, another option is to support your open collective. I have to say, I'm always like, we got to talk about the money. The servers don't pay for themselves. So you have an open collective. It's on the screen right now, opencollective.com/it's me. And I would assume there's like many things. It's like anything that people can contribute is welcome and goes towards the sustainability of the project. So folks, please contribute.
Yes, that'd be awesome. And one more thing I also wanted to mention was, in addition for the money that we do receive from our open collective going to literally paying for services that we use to keep this app running and keep the lights on there, the money also goes to paying writers for our blog. We have a Medium blog where we publish original content from individuals, advocates, community orgs that care about mental health, talk about mental illness openly and inclusively. And we want to make sure to compensate writers for what they share. Unfortunately, we can't pay everyone that contributes to the project, but we've decided that at the very least, paying our writers is important. So yeah, you're supporting them. And then also, if you're interested in writing for a blog, we are looking to revamp it more and be able to, yeah, continue to share more stories.
I love that. And thank you for paying writers. Everyone, pay your writers. Okay. No, especially if you're a professional, and even if you're not, if you're just sharing at any time that you're taking to put together a thoughtful piece of content that can have such incredible impact, like you should be well compensated for that.
Yeah, emotional labor is labor.
Yeah, 1,000%. That is so cool. Julia, I don't know if you'll be up for sharing your screen quickly and just showing us the platform itself, like the website. I don't know if is there like a demo account we can look at, or I can share my screen. Mine doesn't have anything. Is that okay?
Your screen, because I don't have the developer environment running right now, so I'd have to share my personal account.
You're like, this is not what this is for. So
yeah, these thoughts and feels are for me, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I will share mine, and then I gotta say the onboarding experience of the app itself, it's beautiful because it's a web app, folks. So it literally took me 2 seconds to join, and I was able to authenticate using my Google account, which is something I always love when they makes it so much easier for you. I think that was one of the options. The other one might have been Facebook, but I can't remember. I was one of the two. But this is what it feels like once you log the web app. I haven't said anything on the profile. Like I said, it's very blank, but it looks like I do have a ton of options for customizations, just like for location. I can share if I don't want to use my Google account anymore, and then about me. And then when I share my profile with someone, is that the only way they can see my profile? Because like this is not intended to be like Facebook of mental health. Like this is not for you to just be sharing your profile. So like,
how do people like add you and find you? So
yeah,
on the page that if you open the navigation and scroll down and click allies.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. So you can only search for people by email. And then you can also send invites to people as well. Yeah. So it is very close. Like you can't just like search people by their name. And we do this on purpose. So it's very intentional. You're not getting unwanted requests. And yeah, something to also add that I didn't mention earlier is that we do have reporting features in the application. So if you're experiencing any type of unwanted behavior or harassment, you can block people and you can also report them.
Nice.
And that will go to a human person, and the necessary steps will be taken to, make sure that person isn't engaging with people in a bad way.
Okay.
Yeah, in general, like the code of conduct and just being able to like behave in a polite, respectful, and inclusive way is really important to us, both in our application and in our contributor community. And also, shout out to Coraline Ada, who put together the contributor covenant. It's such a standard in our industry now. I think it was an uphill battle for her to put out in the world. And I think we were one of the first more social impact projects to take it on. And we continue to use it. It's amazing.
Yes, thank you. That's talking about a giant whose shoulders we sit on. If you're someone in the open source space or community building space, or literally do anything where to have interactions with this, you need this. And there wasn't a ton of really, I think, trustworthy and thoughtfully enough created systems in place to do that before Caroline. So that was like epic change into open source culture, like adopting code of conduct. FYI, and my public service announcement for all of you who are watching and have a open source project, please make sure you have a code of conduct for your open source community in your GitHub, please. And thank you. Awesome. Let's go back to the app. I love that I can send the invitation directly from there. And then I see the different, so I can add my moments. This is really cool. This is an example. I'm not interviewing tomorrow.
This is basically the journal entry. We call it moment because that's a moment in life. But this is the main feature of the application. You can categorize it by things, so you can create categories and group together your posts. You can also define some moods. So if you want to tag something as it makes you feel depressed or angry or whatever emotion that you experience, you can also categorize things that way. And then you can also tag your moments by strategies. So basically, strategies is a feature. I think right now there aren't any, but if you go back to the navigation,
I can set So I could set the
Yeah, you can see
strategy.
some
Oh,
information. And we have
oh,
a pre-created one called 5-minute meditation. But yeah, it's basically anything that helps with your self-care, helps you deal and cope. And you can like tag it to a moment if it helps you work through what to do in that difficult situation or whatever the situation is. I think the other thing is oftentimes when you think about journaling or mental health, it's always like bad stuff that happens,
yeah.
stuff, but it can also be neutral stuff. It could be positive stuff.
This is great. So it's you're collecting your own, this like the self-awareness documented. So when you
Yeah.
have those moments of lucidity, which it's so great to actually do this because when you're not feeling your very most okay self, you don't remember those things. So how great to be able to come to the app and say, okay, yeah, remember you can go for a walk and that makes you feel better. You can do this 5 minute meditation and that makes you feel better. I love being able to link everything together. That's so cool.
And then
That's,
really now you can see some like additional features, like you can enable comments inside of your moments posts and even strategy posts. And that basically means whoever is able to view, that you've set permissions to view that post can write comments. So there is a comment section. And then you can also choose to save things as a draft or publish. A feature that I think we should add eventually, maybe it's a feature someone out there is interested in working on, is autosave. That would be a cool one. Right now it's all manual. Um,
yeah.
and then there is some statistics that we collect. It's very like basic right now. It's just, it shows information on how many posts that you've written for a period of time. And there's also information on what your most used category or mood or strategy is. And that would show up in your profile account, but because you have nothing there right now, it's not there. But yeah, group is also a feature that is more like community focused. So you can create it sort of like a support group and be
Oh,
able to
it's
add other
awesome.
people. And there's like the ability to create different discussion threads. Even if you decide to have a support group and want to take it to Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, you can also like add information on like a video link. Another actually cool feature that was added more recently, and it was something that I was just personally interested in adding, is if you go to the moments page, there's the link that says create and organize templates for writing about your moments. So I'm like huge on journaling and I often use prompts or recurring templates I like to reuse again. So this feature lets you add templates. So yeah, there's some pre-populated ones that you can use, but yeah, so that when you write out your moments post, you can toggle down, use a template and just fill it out. So if you're big on that type of journaling, that's a really great one to use.
Oh, I love that. That because that would make it actually more accessible. Like
Yeah.
personally, yeah. If I could stop and look at the blank page and think about how
Yeah.
do I start to say, this is amazing. So many features. I love the having the groups, like that's really great. Did you know more or less like how many groups are created or like any well, and that's another thing also I wanted to ask if there is, I know maybe within the blog, there been like anyone sharing actually experiences with the app itself, like some user stories or people that might just wanted to share about how they used it. I'd
Yeah.
love to share some of those.
There's been a few posts in the past, but I think that's a really great call out. I think that's something that we can look into more, like actually interviewing people and they consent to it, publishing it, because we don't get that information automatically through analytics. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then there's a ton of resources.
Yeah. So page that you can access without having an account. This is a really popular page. I think a lot of people share it at their workplaces and like community orgs that are part of, but we crowdsource resources all over the world, all over the internet, like offline as well, and based on important categories that are useful for people when finding mental health resources. So this is actually the easiest way to contribute. If you have a resource that you want to share here and tag, you can also either email us with the information, or if you have experience using GitHub and making pull requests, you can also put in a pull request.
Oh, I love this. This is fantastic. Look, there is even a Latinx category. That's really cool. So curated resources for people of Latin culture and peer support place. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Now I'm going to share that too. I'm going to share this also in other presentations. That is fantastic. Anything else that we should take a look while we're in here?
We do have a feature for medications. This is a pretty
Oh, yeah.
like bare bones feature though. It's just like being able to track the medications that you're taking, prescription, and then be able to set notifications. There are like Google notifications though. So you would get like email notifications or ones through Google Calendar. So this is a feature that hasn't been looked at in a long time. It's pretty basic, but if anyone out there has an interest in enhancing this or has any ideas, yeah, this is an area that could use some love.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So you're able to set it up where it syncs to your calendar and then you get
Yeah.
the reminder. So either to take it or to refill it, probably.
Yeah.
That's very thoughtful. That is really great. I love the feel of the site, honestly. Like it has such a
Yeah,
lovely
thank you.
flow. Yes, it has a lovely flow to it.
A
This
huge
is
shout out
great.
there to there's a contributor that's been a part of our project for a really long time. His name is Nishiki Liu. He's like a designer and a developer at the same time, which is amazing. A rare combo.
A
But
unicorn.
like unicorn, really, but yeah, he's responsible for the redesign. This is back in 2018 and it still holds up pretty well.
It looks great. It looks great. So I wanted to quickly share the hub page. Please, folks, go by, drop a star, and then take a look and see how you can contribute. If you want to contribute a resource, here's where also you can find to like a contribution. If you want to make it like super easy and you can actually do it from develop it yourself and put it on the PR. And then take a look at all the languages the README has been translated on. And if you speak one of these languages, are languages that's not represented here, then are you welcoming any more README translations?
Of course. Yeah. The more, the merrier. Yeah. These have all been people who have just expressed, oh, I want to be able to read the README in my language. And then,
I
yeah,
love it.
really translating the app itself. But yeah, if you like
Yes.
to see it, it's all in the README. We have pages and we have some defined roles for developers, designers, testers, translators, and writers. But if there's anything else that is not documented there that you see value in doing, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always open to, new ideas. Yeah, mental health should be open and like collaboration and just ways to like help improve the accessibility, awareness, and knowledge is also open too.
Thank you. Thank you for creating this. And honestly, thank you for being so candid and open to talk about it. Like, we have to change. I can only imagine. I feel like there has been a slight rise in awareness. I would say 10 years ago, probably look a lot different. And 10 years before, even worse.
Yeah. And I think the pandemic and lockdown really forced people to confront it. They had no choice. Things like mental health days off and benefits at work have become more normalized. People are talking more about self-care and openly talking about going to therapy. So there has been progress. It's been incremental, and it's because of everyone who has put themselves out there and been vulnerable and advocated for themselves and others. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I know for me, even though this wasn't like a startup or something I was looking to become viral or make bank on, I think really for me, the goal of this project was in a lot of ways about myself, in the sense that it didn't have, if the project didn't have the impact it had so far, which I'm really grateful and blessed for, I'm like proud at the very least, like of my own journey going through like mental illness and mental health and being able to like, come to my own and be my true self and be able to be there for others. Yeah, I'm really hoping that everyone else gets a chance of that in life. Unfortunately, we live in a world where it's a privilege, it's expensive, there's time, space, and the little things that we can do to make it more free and open for people, I think the better.
Yes. And I love the fact that an open source project, I feel in tech, there also was such a much bigger stigma. We're also changing, and we're part of that evolution of break down those barriers for access and to talk about it. It's okay to say you go to therapy, you're on medication, you're looking after yourself. That's perfectly fine. So I would think we tech people would be a really good consumer of this type of tool for real, because this is an industry that's so rim with burnout and just we usually don't look after ourselves very well, friend. We just don't. I speak for myself personally. I really suck at that. So it's nice to listen to other stories and be it so frontline that actually makes you think about it. I have been thinking about journaling for ages, not made an intentional effort to do it. I know it'll be very therapeutic. I know a therapist suggested it before, but now seeing a tool like this, it can be done so easily, and I can just add the entries and I can have that template like okay, I'll give it a go. So it's so important to talk about these things and make it more accessible. So thank you, Julia. I appreciate you bringing the project to open source and
Oh, thank
all the
you.
work. 10 years, 10 years. You're right. This is the child. You raised the child. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to take a moment to thank your backers too, because I feel like this is another thing we don't do very well. And that is thank the people who are supported. So of course, all of the contributors, you can find the list of contributors, like so many 300 folks that have been a part of the project. But what we're looking at before a moment ago is the folks that have contributed to the Open Collective. I love seeing names that I know. And like, of course, good people contributing to great things. And then also you do have sponsorship packets from companies. So if you're a company that's watching this and you would like to sponsor the project, don't hesitate to travel to this page and go ahead and click on that becoming a sponsor button so that you can keep this project continuing to thrive for another 10 years, infinity and beyond.
Oh my God. I don't know who's going to be paying for the Heroku bills, but yes, that was so nice.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, sometimes I get morbid about them. What's going to happen when I'm not here? It's open source. The code's out there. Someone will fork it, do something with it, hopefully. If not, totally fine. But this is a really awesome discussion. Thank you so much, Andrea. I really appreciate your thoughtful questions. And yeah,
Well,
Friday.
thank you, Julia. Happy Friday to you. Thank you for being here. I'll be sure to reshare all of the links that we talked about on the notes so folks can click on them, go by, leave a star. I think one of the call to action we can leave folks with is let's talk about it. Share this. This is such an incredible resource. If you haven't seen it before, if you're not familiar with the org, or if you weren't familiar with the web app, share. I guarantee you'll be someone that is reading your threads post or at work and you mention it and can find such great value for them to just look after themselves. So give someone the gift of sharing this project and you can do that today. That's an easy, free ask. Doesn't cost you anything, one moment of your time. So I encourage all of you to please share. And if they want to connect with you, Julia, how are folks getting a hold of you? Is there a preferred method? Are you on any social, maybe LinkedIn, or where would you folks to be directed?
Good question. I actually am not on social media as much these days, but if you want to reach us for the project, our email is in the GitHub.
Okay.
I do have a website. The short link is julia.tech if you want to reach out to me personally and know more about my work. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
That's about it.
I'll go ahead and share your website then also and on the notes. And then if folks want to connect with you, this is so beautiful. Oh my God. How have I not seen this? I just clicked on it and now
it is big now. There's a lot of stuff out there, but
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to share my screen because I want you folks to go look at it. Go look at it yourselves. You won't regret it. It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for being here today and being a part of Open Source Friday. Please come back. Please come back. I'm going to have other invitations. Oh, like, I feel, there is, oh my God, there is so much that you can share. There, especially for all of you who are either new in tech or are just now in a position where you can actually take the time to, you're thinking about a project, you're thinking about something that you know can be impactful to society. You wrote the guidebook, how to do this, that there is a lot that can be shared from that experience. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, Julia. We'll see you next time.
Bye.